Good evening and welcome to Axiom Flux, Season 3, Episode 9. And today's date is the first day of January 2017. So we'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year, or make it a Happy New Year, if you can. But anyway, tonight's conversation is about what perhaps is going to happen in the new year, or people's thoughts of what they think it's going to turn out like. So I'd be interested to see what our guests have got to say this evening and their thoughts about it all. So with that, we've got that going. I'll say good evening to everybody. Good evening, Jeff. How are you?
Good evening, Stav. You all right, mate? I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. You know, we made 2017, so that's something, isn't it? Good evening, James. How are you?
Hey, from the United States of Asparagus.
Nice to hear you, James. Good to hear you.
Nice to be here. Beautiful, beautiful day.
Yeah, we're always in good spirit. There's no doubt about it.
I'm all about the love, man. I'm all about the love.
The love machine.
I am. I'm just a love machine, and I don't work for nobody but you.
That's good. And we also got Ian. Good evening, Ian.
Good evening. How you doing? All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. I don't know if we've had a chat before, but I generally
I've heard you before.
talk a lot. I talk a lot of old bollocks. Let's get on. Let's get this.
Yeah. There's
if you're
everywhere in there. Yeah.
I've been accused of a lot worse, but anyway. So tonight, it's all about predictions, guys. If you've got any, I'd like to start with whoever wants to pick it up first. I mean, I've got my own thoughts, which I'll chip in with, but I won't start with mine because it'll get very laborious and boring, and I start to sound political, and then I'm meant to be political atheist, but there we go. So I don't know. Let's put it over to we'll put it over to Jeff first, if you wouldn't mind. Jeff, have you got any ideas on what you think's going to happen? Or
it's going to be the end of the road, mate.
We're doomed. It's all over. That's it. End of show. Bye. Have a good day.
Nice.
Anyway, it's just away you go, Jeff. I'm going to move mine up because I think I get a bit of echo when I'm hosting this. So over to you, mate.
All right, mate. Well, 2007. Well, if you look at 2016, if we regress back and say, well, what happened? A load of political nonsense, a load of stuff saying that everything in the alternate media is fake and all that. I think people are going to start to realise that they're being seriously manipulated. In 2017, people are going to realise that their minds are being manipulated. What they're being told is fake is real, and what's real is fake. They're all going to come to the conclusion that, well, not all, but I mean, I think a large amount of the population are going to suddenly realise that they're being made monkeys of, basically.
Well, some people are doing that now, but they're having trouble defining, like, for instance, what real news is.
Well, yeah, there is always the fine line. Sorry, what were you going to say, mate?
The Pizzagate scandal came along at a very convenient time when fake news and that.
I'm afraid to order pizza now.
Yeah.
My prediction as well, I think another prediction for 2017, I think we're going to get FUCKED on Brexit, definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
The writing's on the wall for that. We can see what's happening, more court appeals, lodging more court actions to try and to derail the Brexit process. And I think they will definitely, I think that was the plan all along. And I think Theresa May, although her great acting, saying Brexit, we're definitely going to have a Brexit and all this sort of stuff. I think it's a load of old Charlie Ollops, if you pardon the expression, because she's obviously a Bilderberg. She's in with it. She knows the score. She's playing along. She's trying to pacify people at the moment, and she obviously, I think she's obviously gone ahead with the delaying of the Brexit process so that these court things could go through. That's what I think. I think that was the part of the plan all along. So I think we're definitely going to see March the 31st is going to come, and that's when she's supposed to trigger the Article 50 process, and I think it's basically all going to be shut down way before then. I think it's all going to go through the MPs, and they're going to have a vote, and they're going to say, no, Brexit shouldn't happen. Or at the very least, it'll be a soft Brexit, which won't be a Brexit at all.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. Anyway, what do you think about that, Ian?
Yeah, I have the very same feeling, to be honest, that it's going to end up sort of, there's going to be so many people blocking it and saying this, that, and the other. Yeah, like you say, it's going to end up a soft Brexit.
Hold on,
Yeah, because
I'm getting a call through. Hold on, guys. It always happens when I.
No problem.
I thought that was Ian's phone going off. Then it's not his.
No, my phone's right out there. But no, to be honest, it's. I mean, we're one of the only countries really that gives out money in Europe rather than takes it. So, you know, a lot of people are sort of saying that. And what's the only other countries? Germany or something?
Yeah, I think Germany, France, and Britain are the three big players in the bloc. The other countries, especially Southern Europe, they've got loads of economic problems anyway. So they're not really in a position to sort of more of in a position of receipt than giving, aren't they? The Greek and the Italians and the Spanish.
Yeah.
So,
I don't have any official thing from the United States regarding Brexit because I haven't seen Donald Trump's Twitter yet on it.
You follow the Twitter, right?
Oh, you got to know Donald Trump's Twitter because that's going to be our new political way of being molded. I'm sure. You just the thing is, I won't have my tweet open, so he's going to have a hard time reaching me. But I'm quite sure that we're going to have some issues. I mean, you know, we're dealing with different things that are all going to culminate together. I'm sure. When you guys talk about Brexit, I mean, in the U.S., we really don't have anything quite like that. I mean, there's nobody. Maybe Texas thinks about seceding every once in a while, but we really don't have a Brexit thing.
But you've got a similar sort of thing in one way because we've got the sort of what they're now citing as the populist uprising, which is the people taking back or trying to take back the power from the centralisation to stop the centralisation, if you like. So there is that in a similar sort of vein. But
we have the great division between the right and the left, and I think that will throughout. I mean, if I were going to make a prediction this year, I think we're going to see even a greater problem of divide between these two.
Yeah, it seems to be that we're artificially being divided by the mainstream media, so that you've got the lefties and the righties. There does seem to be a big.
Well, in any way they can do it. We were talking earlier about the whole idea of like the flat versus globe Earth and stuff before the show. And the thing is, that's the same thing. It's another division. I mean, and dividing is how you conquer somebody. So to me, I'm looking, the reason I find love to be an answer is it's about trying to locate that one thing we can all unify on. I think everybody's seeking love in one way or another. Just we got to define what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that assertion, James, 100%. It's always been about divide and conquer for the elites. So I think we're going to see more of the same in that way. I think we're going to see, like I say, the Brexit process is going to be derailed. I think there's going to be quite a bit of civil unrest, and we're also seeing now the rollout of armed police across Britain. We've got them in London now, all parading around with their fancy machine guns. We've got apparently got them in Nottingham as well. I think they're going to roll that out more and more. We're going to see the end of the totalitarian tiptoe and the rush towards the finish line.
Yeah,
I think that sounds a bit negative, but I think it's all part of the process, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we have to be realistic, and we got to realize there's before any good thing is going to happen, we are going to go through some crisis or event.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost always a necessary thing to change the mind of the public, and I think that we're going to see, whether it's this year or next year, I really sense that we're going to have a threat of nuclear war that's going to be really scary. Whether or not it actually proceeds to that, I don't get that feeling, at least not in the next year to two, but if I were going to make a prediction, I would say that we're going to be talking a lot about it this year in the U.S.
I read an article earlier, actually, which is a bit strange, James. Apparently, Obama's ordered all his aircraft carriers back, and they reckon that it's all part of a ploy to get somebody to attack America first. So that then,
well, I mean, let's put it this way: that in this next few days, we are in a period where, if I was trying to manipulate politics and I wanted to, let's say, keep Obama in office, okay, now would be a great time for a war to start, because then there's certain rules in place that have to do with times of war. Whoever's holding the presidency stays there.
Yeah.
So if they start a war before Trump can actually take office, then that's why you're seeing, by the way, I think we're seeing an all-out effort because they didn't get Hillary in. So now I think there's a good chance we may actually see some kind of confrontation. It may not be nuclear, but there'll certainly be some talk of it within the next couple of weeks.
That's a thought. I had not thought of that. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's the ultimate way, because of the way the United States does with their presidents. That would keep Obama in, and they would not have Trump in then. So, yep. And all they got to do is, even if they could even create an illusion of war.
Trump's embarrassing. I mean, he tweets, such rot.
Well, he's going to have us at war with China if he, the way things are going anyway. I mean, economic first.
Yeah, but that assumes, James, of course, that they're not all batting from the same side anyway. So Trump could already be on the same batting from the same side as Obama.
Well, there are some that think that he's batting with Russia. There is definitely the real problem that existed, and I saw it early in the debates because I watched them, and that was that I noticed that Hillary was blaming a lot of stuff on Russia. Like, for instance, Anonymous got in and found the letters that made it their way to WikiLeaks, right? So that was an anonymous thing by UFO people. Yet we still are being told by the media this was Russia. Russia did this. Russia. It's bullshit.
No proof.
It's bullshit. No proof, nothing. Oh, we can't show you the proof. Yeah, right. Like, you didn't show us when you had to take the guy out that supposedly bombed our country out to sea because it was tradition with Muslims that live in the desert to be buried at sea. Yeah, bullshit. Bullshit. That was bullshit too. Pardon my French, but
no, fair enough. That's ridiculous.
We're being told what to believe, and we're showing us what to think, and that's what pisses me off the most, because for truth to live, we have to be exposed to what is real. Most of us really don't know, and that's why we sit around speculating, because nobody's really sharing with us what's really truth. And that's also why we have all these divergent opinions regarding things like, is the world round or flat? I came up with, by the way, here's something. I'm going to start a crowdfunding for that. And I want to find, now listen, here's what I want to do. I want to find the biggest, most outspoken flat earth person and send them to the International Space Station.
Yeah. Get a big laser across the Atlantic.
No lasers. Just get a person who doesn't believe in space travel up into space to look at what they're looking at.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
And I think if anybody fought that, now I know what would happen, though. I have to say this: if he'd come back and he would say, "Well, yeah, I was up there, and it's not like we thought," and yada yada, and they say, "Oh, NASA brainwashed our leader supreme, only showing more power that NASA has."
They got to him.
You know what they say then, though, James, don't you? They'd say, "Well, I've been up on board a spaceship, looked out the window, and I seen the big globe Earth, but it must have been a fisheye lens for a window."
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. And but this whole thing about the whole space, I mean, I even watched where somebody was claiming that the space thing was faked and showed all this stuff about how there's wires and all this. And, I'm not opposed to the idea that this stuff gets faked. What I'm opposed to is that people often present these things without any factual evidence, just a lot of speculation, and then another person takes off and presents their speculation as factual evidence. So we never really learn the truth. We want to know the truth, do something like that. Take somebody who's on the opposite end of the pole, at least give them a chance. Send them up. Get a team of camera people. Get let 3 or 4 of them go up together.
Well,
You could easily do it with a laser, really, on Earth, really, to prove the curvature.
But I've often said, I still don't think that really it's the shape of the Earth that matters at all.
No.
It's the condition of the Earth, the condition of each other, the condition of, anyway, I don't want to get too off the subject here, but my prediction is we're going to hear a lot more from the flat earthers coming up here real soon.
I think Trump's going to find out that, the shadow government is
actually deforming. I think they're fomenting that because, again, it's another divisive thing.
Yeah, like I think he's going to get assassinated if he ain't careful.
Oh, I used to worry about shit like that because I was very outspoken politically for years on the internet.
Right.
I think that I never had anybody show up at my house, and I tried. Never had a CIA or FBI or anybody. Nobody. NAFTA didn't even come over. Nobody.
No Will Smith.
Not even NAMBLA. Nobody that came to my house.
No.
Anyway, getting back to predictions, I think I try to look at all sides of things. So I would say if we're going to talk today, let's talk about what are positive and negative predictions. So I know it's easy to go into the negative, but what are I'm going to put forth there to all of you guys. What are some, if you were going to make a positive prediction, what would you make? Maybe you already did because you said more people become aware. I kind of agree. We're going to have more people become aware of things this year.
Yeah. Peace in the Middle East would be wonderful, if something was to happen to get everyone to actually bond, I mean, it's a long shot, but
Can we all agree that you both like Abraham? Okay, can we
Yeah, I mean they say war's big business, and there's but there's got to be other ways. I mean, there's got to be other ways than controlled obsolescence, right? Yeah, I mean, a bomb is like the best controlled obsolescence you can get, isn't it? It's like £1 million, and the only thing it does is explode, And so that's big business, isn't it?
Well, I found out my tablet I bought, I took it in because it broke after 4 months. I had to go get another one after 4 months of having my new tablet. And remember, I was off that for a while. It kind of pissed me off. And I went in. And I didn't have the receipt, so it's like a $49 tablet, and it's like I wouldn't give it. So I went and I had enough. I bought a new one, right? And I bring it home, and it's like I'm thinking to myself, boy, I really, I don't even want to talk about how I see myself sometimes with it because I get there and I'm on that tablet, and I do the same thing I see everybody else doing. By the way, staring into it mindlessly, moving into like I do with the computer or a TV, and I move into another dimension of space and time. And I don't know where I was going with the original concept of this, but my tablet, I feel like in some ways is a trap.
Right.
It's like they say about a cell phone, isn't it? It's called a cell phone because it puts you in a cell.
It's a tracking device.
Yeah, exactly. I sort of feel like all of these things are traps. You know what? I really felt that too was when the power went out. Because we had severe weather, power went out, and suddenly I felt what many people probably would feel if we had like an EMP or something like that occur. Boom.
Yeah. That's why ham radios are good because they run with valves because they're resilient to EMP attacks. So in an emergency, a ham radio would especially a nuclear which creates EMP and that ham radios are the only things that are going to work, really. But then again, you've got to think about the rest of where the power comes from, and stuff. So there's a few things to be worked out there, I suppose.
I think if you had a generator, say, and a ham radio covered in lead, lead sheeting around it, it would probably filter out any electromagnetic pulses.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I mean, basically, that's the only way you're going to have an emergency.
I just got a message, guys, from PJ over on my Facebook.
Yeah.
And he said, tell Jeff to turn up his mic a little.
Right.
Blimey. Okay, I'll have.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm just listening. It's fine by me. I can hear you, but apparently it's. I hope my sound's okay. By the way, my roommate promised me that I get to buy a nice stop. She's gonna, because I did some stuff for her. She said, "I'm gonna buy you that mic you want." So I want to get one of those. You know, I see everybody on YouTube videos and stuff with a really nice sound, and I've always been a little bit like, I want really nice sound. So
Yeah.
she's gonna get me a good mic. I'm looking forward to that.
I've got a mic here, but I haven't tried it yet. I bought it the other day, so I'll
Ah! What was that?
Too loud, Jeff.
Is
Not
that
too loud, no. Whoa. That was
Man,
okay? I'll turn it back.
when I can hear the bugs flying in your room. You know,
yeah.
it's too loud.
too loud, man.
Any better?
Go again, Jeff.
Is that any better?
That sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
I'll wait and see if PJ gives me another message. He's listening. I don't know. PJ's been having some tech problems, so he wants to get in here and everything. But you know, I know he's been frustrated lately by a lot of those things. I just want to encourage PJ though. I know he's been frustrated a little bit by stuff going on and not quite knowing where to turn or what to do with some of the things that he's doing. I just want to be an inspiration to you, PJ. Just keep going. Do what feels good. Do what feels right. Don't expect other people to do what you need done, but do what feels right for you. I just want to encourage that.
Let me just give PJ a quick count so that he can work out whether my mic's working properly or not. So 2468, your turn to modulate. How does that sound, PJ? Is that any good?
I'm sitting over here waiting.
Sounds
He might be having to go. He might be. We realize we got a time delay here, guys. So in a few minutes here, he'll probably pop up right when we're talking about something completely different. And now for something completely different.
Yeah.
It's a parrot. It's a dead parrot.
Well, it sounds fine here, Jeff. I'd just like to interject a little bit on what you guys have said so far, and I pretty much agree with what you've all said. But I'm encouraged by diversity. Now, that sounds a little bit opposite of what you guys may think about diversity.
No, I'm a big fan of diversity, brother.
I'm good with diversity, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the fact that people are challenging on all sides, whichever we want to look at it politically or ism-wise, socialism, capitalism, whatever ism your bag is. But I think it's good that more people are actually raising their voice. And, you know, we all can't think or agree the same. As long as we agree to disagree, which is an old chestnut, a lot of people say, well, it's a cop-out sitting on the fence. But I guess you end up with that in the end because there is no other alternative, especially when the big egos get involved. So there we are about that. But what I'd like to say is if I just share a screen, I'll just quickly cover a little thing that I wanted to cover later on. But if I get it out of the way, then...
please. Are these Nostradamus predictions? Let's go. Oh, no, just kidding.
No, not exactly. It's just events, that's all. It's just events.
Events.
Right, okay. Events. Now, I don't know if... Can you see this, Jane?
Yeah, we can.
Alarm group. Whoa, disappeared. I got to pull it back up.
Yeah.
Have you got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Right. You mentioned somebody touched about a peace in Middle East would be very nice to start with in 2017. Well, it would be nice, but I don't see it myself. But then this is just my thoughts. And when you look, when people say, oh, well, you know, it's the New World Order, as the USA, the CIA, the UK, the EU, sponsoring these terrorists that's causing all these problems. Well, it's not actually as simple as that, as far as I can tell, anyway. It's a little bit more complicated. And this is why I think it's going to be very difficult to get peace within Syria, let alone the whole Middle East.
God, yeah.
In 2017. And this little list here just gives you one of the reasons why. And we got here, which is the Syrian Arab Republic. All these forces down here on the Syrian government side, Assad. But if we just concentrate on the so-called opposition, right? These are affiliates and terror groups which operate inside Syria. This is what the Syrian government and Russia and the Iranians and, should we say, Hezbollah from Lebanon up against, right? Not saying picking sides or nothing. But when you look down of all these different involved in a country, you have to bear in mind that only has 22 million population.
All right.
That's all it has. 22 million, that's right. But when you go down here and you look at the opposition, right, or trying to enforce this regime change, get rid of Assad. When you look down there, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Like Southern Front, Al Ran region, Syrian Turkmen Brigade, Sultan Murad, Levant Front, and these are all their brigades.
Well, this is like in America if all the churches fought over like whether Jesus is Lord or not.
Yeah, well, look, exactly, James. But look, I could go on, and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So it's not as simple as, well, if Trump gets in and they cut the aid and the petrodollar starts to slump and the Saudis can't afford to finance these opposition in Syria, everything will disappear. I'm afraid not. It's not that simple. Okay, so that's what I think.
Oh, sure it is, says Trump. Trump is going to put out there a Twitter. It'll be the greatest, most spectacular Twitter ever. It'll make all of these groups think of how stupid they are and that they just need to get along.
Yeah,
and I will have done it because I'm Trump and I'm great.
There you are. It's absolutely ridiculous. But in a way, and I might get the word right this time, Jeff, a microcosm of the world. I look at Syria. When you look in the UK, and you've got not the political, but the difference of opinion, even within the alternative media now, let alone the mainstream and the alternative. You've got people on David Icke and all these alternative people, 21st Century Wild, and we could go on, and they're all disagreeing with each other. They've all got their own thoughts on what is the problem and what way to fix it. Now, it's not that simple. So basically, I look on Syria as a microcosm of any other nation, even at these troubled times, because you've got people out there, they've all got their own thoughts, they've all got their own take on it, just like you and James, Jeff and James had the discussion, which was very constructive.
Yes, agreed.
But the thing is, you're going to be different of thoughts, and you have to agree to disagree. And
agreeably.
Yeah. How do you get like, how do you convince James that Jeff's idea of contributionism, a la I can't remember his name, Ubuntu movement.
I think we would need to go back to a conversation we had prior to the. I'm getting some feedback, by the way. I'm hearing myself.
Okay, right. That might be. Jeff might need to.
Now we're probably too loud. I use headphones because that way it doesn't happen from my end. But
my headphones on actually. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Anyway, but I just thought I'd throw that into tonight's thoughts on everything. I think nothing's going to change much, and personally, I don't think a great deal is going to change. Only more diversity, more problems with people not agreeing to disagree all over the place, and I see that happening in the United States big time with the younger generation and the socialist movement, which is, we need a nanny state. I want looking after. I want my college paid for. I want this paid for. I want that paid for. I don't want to work. I just want everybody to work for me. Well, I'm afraid the socialist movement, it's going to die off if it carries on down that route, because it's not seen the way that James, because he's an older generation, sees it the correct way. But young people, they look on socialism today as they're going to be looked after with a Mrs. Doubtfire who's going to cook for them, clean their pants.
Socialism, by my definition, is, I'm still getting feedback, by the way. I'm hearing me.
I've got headphones on,
but
so shouldn't be me.
I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Yeah, not from me, because I had a microphone at the time.
Hang on then. Well, let me stop sharing this.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's see if that cures it. If not, you go, James, and I'll mute up. It might be mine. Hang on.
I don't know. Can you hear me now? Somebody just went mute.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, James.
I'm not getting the echo now, so.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, Stav's the culprit, as expected.
Oh, Stav. No, it's okay.
I think going back to what Stav was saying, and what Ian said about his wish for the middle, I think it is from Ian. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, but I think it's more of what you were saying was it is a wish that you would get peace in the Middle East rather than a prediction for peace in the Middle East. But so I think Stav is quite right in what he says, that it's a microcosm of what things, of things that are going to happen. I think there'll probably be an acceleration, if anything, judging by past experience. I think there'll be an acceleration and a proliferation of activity in the Middle East. It definitely, and as far as I can tell from the way I view things, I would say that it's usually several different reasons for these wars. It's never one.
Yeah, it's not
thing.
Yeah.
For example, like oil could be one reason, regime change another, so that they can puppet government, etc.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to try and keep your eyes on the bigger picture and look at things from all angles.
Yeah, it's like the illusion of money as well. I tried to explain Bitcoin to someone the other day, and they went, "How does that work? There's nothing there." And it's like, well, that's what money is. It's only a bit of paper. Like, it's not no different, really.
Well, it's still it's paper though.
Yeah.
Because at least the value of the paper.
You can't build a house with it, though, can you? Well,
I don't have to worry if there's an EMP and the system goes down. I don't have to worry that now I can't spend. I still have something in my hand I can take down to the store and get something with.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll just jump in.
There are advantages and disadvantages. I think Bitcoin is one way of diversifying your, if you've got lucky enough to have savings, I think that would be a good thing to put some money into, as well as gold and silver.
Absolutely.
Crashes, but they've all got their pros and their cons, and they're prone to fluctuations, and we don't know how safe Bitcoin's going to be.
Oh, I wouldn't invest in Bitcoins, no.
Well, I'm of the same sort of mindset, to be honest, Ian. I haven't got a lot of faith in cyber security, what with hackers and things.
It's worth 800 quid at the moment. Even 400 quid a couple of months ago.
For one Bitcoin.
Yep.
Blimey.
You could have made, double your money, but you can't predict it,
Yeah. One thing I was going to point out from earlier, I'm going to say this real quick because I'm not getting feedback now. But if you got true socialism is not the idea that you can now get free stuff. What real socialism is, in my view, is a responsibility to take care of other people who cannot take care of themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So my feeling is that I have a social responsibility to be true to everything that I feel is a part of myself. And since everything out there is a part of me, by healing the world, I heal me.
Yeah, I'm worried about the homeless, really. I mean, especially with this weather here at the moment. I mean, I think one of the top of my agenda would be get these homeless people off the streets, because it's bloody cold. It would kill me if I was to live out in that,
There's enough church space. If the churches are real, they can put people in there, and the government has to back off and let them.
Yeah, I mean, squatting used to be a good thing, because not every squatter used to just bash the place to bits. A lot of squatters actually kept buildings in good condition. I mean, unfortunately, there was those who didn't, so...
Right, and those are the ones who wreck it. It's always one or two people who wreck it for the other.
Yeah, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial now.
Oh God, no!
Okay, go for it.
Go for it.
Right, they haven't got nothing for homeless people. I don't know what the figure is. 200,000 people in the country.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how comes we found room for 300,000 immigrants in 6 months?
Oh, he's getting controversial. I sort of agree, and it's not because of the issue of the immigrants. That's a whole separate issue to me, but...
I never said it was, Joe.
Oh, I know, but I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, because it is true that if we can help the world, we should be helping our neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And the other thing is, James, on that socialism side of it, that's fine, helping other people, but first you've got to be able to help yourself.
Well, you have to take responsibility for you too, of course.
I know that, yeah.
I'm actually in agreement with Stav there, because I think the way I look at it, people will say it's not an immigration issue. I disagree. I think it is an immigration issue, and I don't say that as a racist or anybody prejudices or bigotry. I think we've got a small country which is already densely populated in the UK. It might be different there in the good old US of asparagus games, but in England we've got a very densely populated country, and we've got finite resources. We've only got X amount of houses, and I think if you're going to invite millions of uncontrolled immigrants into the country, it's going to have an effect. It's going to have a knock-on effect.
And that's not racist. That just has to do with immigrants from any country.
Yeah, that's just practicality, James.
That's even if we Americans decide we want to go back to England. I'm sure you guys would be like, because I have roots. I want to reclaim the roots of my family, and I'm headed back to England.
As you know, I've been through that recently.
Sovereign. You have to be sovereign, James. Are you sovereign?
Right.
I'm just me, and I don't know exactly what sovereign means because.
Have you got an English father?
I have English in my background through the Kingsley side. I'm related to King George.
On your father's side?
Yes.
Then you could be sovereign. So all is well.
I think. To be honest, Stav, I don't really like the term sovereign. I never have done. It conjures up different meanings for different peoples. But for me, sovereign is about.
That to me means I have self value, that I don't need to be outside of any.
Well, to me, sovereignty is more of a supremacy thing. But I mean, people have got obviously different beliefs about that. I prefer the term autonomy, because be able to be autonomous, rather than have any ruling power over anybody else. I prefer. The way of looking at it as an individual to be able to determine for him or herself what they want.
Let's find out something here. I'm curious. What the hell is sovereignty? Because it says here, sovereignty is understood in jurisprudence as the full right and power of a governing body to govern itself without any interference from outside sources or bodies. Now, here would be a good question for that. Do I therefore have the right to assign myself my own governorship? In which case, taking full sovereignty of me, for me.
Yes.
That's autonomy. That is exactly the essence of autonomy.
So therefore, why can't I move anywhere in the earth I choose, since I am my own jurisprudence? I am my own sovereign being. I have no authority. Only authority I give over people is the authority I have to give to them to live in a society, and only then it's limited to whatever little bit they absolutely need, because for the most part I wish to retain my ability to make my own decisions, to understand things from my perspective, and to stand on that alone if I have to, without somebody coming in and saying, no, you have to think like I do, you have to give to this, you have to be this way.
Do you agree with common law?
In essence, yeah.
Well, basically do no harm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. In a sense, I do agree with the idea of what, like, Crowley said, where he said, what was it?
Let that be the whole of the law. Be
right.
Do what thou wilt. Yeah.
Right. Do what you will, so long as you're loving. See, there's the thing people forget. It's not, Crowleyism was not just about just doing whatever you felt like. It was with under love.
Yeah.
I can see James' point of view, but from another angle, from James' point of view, it's a case of we should be able to go where we want, do what we want, when we want, as long as we don't cause any harm or problems for anybody else, which in essence is absolutely right. But from a practicable point of view, now we've got such dense population, you can't have just, if we've got the best economy in the world here in UK and everybody wants to come here, well, it obviously wouldn't work. The whole system would collapse. The infrastructure would collapse. So you've got the practicality on the other side. What we could have is another in-between system whereby when one person moves out of the UK, it allows room for another person to move into the UK, so that we maintain the same sort of numbers of people within the UK, if you see what I'm saying. Some sort of system like that.
I get it, and I understand what you're saying. Who is the authority, though, or authoritative body that makes the decision who and what and when and how and what number and all that? Because that's the people with power.
At the moment, it's the EU decides on how many.
What about sovereignty? Where's the sovereignty in that? How come you guys?
There is none. There is
No.
none. There is none. There is no sovereignty to be in English now, because a lot of people get funny about this and they say, well, I'm Welsh, I'm Irish, I'm Northern Irish, I'm Scottish. Well, if you're part of the UK, it's still the same thing. And, you know, there's no sovereignty left because it was handed over by the corrupt government unlawfully in signing various treaties to the, European Union, which is an act of treason in itself.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the strange and daft, ironic thing about this is that in the past, when we had smaller populations throughout the world, we were in a position to be able to move around more freely then, but it wasn't allowed. And now we find ourselves in a situation where we've got large, dense populations, and from a practicable point of view, it has to be controlled to a certain degree, and that's the daft thing about it. So now we're having the freedom of movement. Is the time when we can't really support that infrastructurally.
Well, that's because there's an agenda behind that, and it's all to do with the EU, and it's all to do with the corrupt government that we have in the UK. And
you know, when it comes to this, Ian would be a good person to talk to about this situation, because you see, he's got an interest in why he would like to be able to move freely, and he has Amy, who has an interest in why she would like to be able to move freely, and because they are politically dissident by national barriers, they are being held back from the very thing that we should be seeking, which is love. And now that we can reach out into a global environment, we need to take into consideration that there are going to be love affairs and real love, like what Amy has encountered with Ian. They have real love. And go ahead.
Deported her, like when they deported her when she shouldn't have been even got on an aeroplane because she had a big clot in her neck, and you know. Surprised she survived the flight over there, to be honest, you know, but they deported her, you know.
But why wasn't she and your love brought a unity that should have been a sovereign thing in and itself, aligning you to it. Now, why does our nations pull us apart, and how can we know when a person is, say, using the system versus the reality of what he's going through?
Yeah, they called her a bloody medical tourist. It's like we paid for every single medical, thing she needed. We weren't any bother to anyone for 2 years. It's only when he found out. It's like, we got to deport her. It's like,
By the way, if you're traveling to the U.S. from Britain or any other country, I highly recommend you buy insurance.
Yeah, we made some mistakes,
If you don't buy insurance when you come here to this country, they will charge you, and no matter what country you go back to, they will bill you ad infinitum for up to millions of dollars.
Yeah, so hang on a minute, James. So what you're saying is you would rather agree, right? You would rather have a country with no borders. You want no borders, you want no boundaries. People should be able to go on the world and live wherever they like, whenever they like, right? So there's no...
Wait. Don't put words in my mouth here, because yes, ideally, I would like a world without borders. Do I practicality-wise, do I believe that we could have that? No, but I believe we need to come up with ways where it's a little easier for people like, say, Ian and Amy to be able to join themselves in a union without having these problems between... I mean, I have friends who are from countries we're almost at war with, okay? And I love these people. What if I fell in love with somebody in, like, Syria, okay? Can I just move there to go be with my love? No. Can she come here? Not necessarily. I don't know how the world works from that side. But what I'm saying is that's not right, because where I believe that now that we have this global connectiveness, anyone that can globally connect should be able to. And now that's where the borders need to be dropped. Now, as for just letting people randomly come wandering into your country to visit, but I don't know who we give the authority to make these decisions. I don't trust the authorities that are there now.
Who owns the world? Nobody.
Well, yeah, exactly. But then, if you don't want a one world government, now you've got to be careful what you wish for.
There's a part of me that does. There's a part of me that does want to. There's a part of me that wants a one world government, but not their government. It wants a one world, but that's run by the people in a democratic way, but yet not with the leaders having corporate interests and special interests that they can then make decisions that are counter because they're getting money from these people.
An anarcho autonomous syndicalist collective kind of thing, really. Yeah.
Like
try and get that working. Like you know, at the moment we're kind of in a corner, aren't we?
I'm having a Monty Python moment there.
We're pushed into a corner.
I think which would be more democratic would be direct democracy, because at least if we had direct democracy, the people would be the ones in charge. The people would be the ones to make the decisions, more so. It's not perfect by any means, but I think it would. I mean, it works for some countries like Switzerland, for example. They've democracy.
Could I say a democracy that's modified with let's not call it socialism. Let's call it compassionism. I would like to make sure that there's compassionism in it, because if you just model it after just, where you're going with that, it ain't going to work by itself. Democracy can fail on some accounts if you don't take into it a certain compassion, because unfortunately we're increasingly, I think, is culturally becoming dispassionate. I think we're more concerned with our own affairs, and since the majority seem to be going towards this hedonistic thing that started in the 80s, I saw it all happen, guys. I'm 55, and Stab can probably tell you the same thing. We remember a time when people had respect for each other, when the youth were taught to respect their elders because their elders could teach them something. Now it's like it just doesn't exist in today's world. Their selfishness came in the 80s, and it grew, and it's now amassed to where it's just this hedonistic way of viewing that's almost normalized, and has nothing to do with caring about anybody else. Hey, I got mine, you go get yours. And it's not evenly placed. There's some people born in the ghetto and some people born in rich areas of the world. I mean, we're talking before the show about this equality. It is not there. So in order to make a democratic society work, you need to, first of all, equalize all of these people. And then we have to have a compassionate view so that we understand that there are people who are going to, we all want to work together, but there's going to be people we need to help.
To be honest, James, I don't think we're going to get there. I understand exactly where you're coming from, mind you, but I don't think we're going to get that sort of compassionate type of democracy. No. As long as we've got the class system, which is like plutocratic, I think we're going to have a system where the common people are in charge.
Agreed.
To make sort of tolerant decisions based on compromise, where everybody can get the sort of things that they want out of the system so that it works for at least the vast majority of people. I
want the most amount of freedom with the least amount of effort for the people. The most amount of freedom with the least amount of effort. So where we can find the most amount of freedom so that people can feel comfortable. Like, I don't want people to have to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a bowl of rice and a place to sleep. Well, I don't want that.
You define freedom. Freedom to me conjures up being able to live how you want. So you'd have to have, for freedom to me, you'd have to have access to the land, unfettered access to be able to use the land. So decided you wanted to be self-sustainable, for example.
Right. What if you're not trained up in self-sustainability? I don't know anything about farming or growing things.
I mean, you could learn all about permaculture on the internet or whatever. But I mean, the point is, for freedom, for freedom, in my mind, that conjures up the ability to be able to live the way nature intended, which is, to be able to have just use a piece of unused land to build a home if you want, or to vegetables or do whatever. That's freedom to me. That's my interpretation. Yours might be slightly different, James.
Well, I'm just concerned. I'm concerned about things that become social issues after the fact, because yes, I could give somebody freedom, but one person might take their freedom and go, I don't want to do anything, and they build clapboard house on the side of town right in view of my house, and I got to look every day at at what's now a growing neighborhood of people who are willing to just put cardboard boxes up and live there. And that's cool,
There has to be freedom within the confines of not infringing on somebody else's.
And this is where we always get law, though. This is what law is figuring out where those fine lines are, and it keeps changing.
Well, to coexist, we need the freedom, but to do it within the accepted boundaries
Well,
of
it's like,
existence with others. So cause no harm, as long as you're causing no harm or loss to anybody
Right.
else, and not interfering with their freedom and their rights. You can be able to do more or less what you like. That's the way I look at it.
well, but would the mass though take care of would the mass truly take care of the other people, or would there be people who would then, because like I looked into the free man movement, which was the idea that it was talking about the sovereignty idea, taking your own sovereignty. But if everybody did that, what would we do with the people once all culture went to that idea where you just take care of your own shit, you buy, beg, whatever, you do it all for you? If people are selfish like they are today, can I be sure that the elderly are going to be taken care of correctly, that the wanted, the needy,
in wheelchairs,
because you know what, if they can't produce, then they just probably, I mean, the ultimate thing with that thought is, well, if they can't cut the mustard, we just find a nice way to get rid of them.
Natural selection and all that shit.
You can't. I'm not a dog eat dog person, because a dog eat dog person is like fire against fire. Fire against fire only burns everyone.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's funny you should say that, James. Actually, I've had this debate with somebody else, because somebody else I was speaking to was an anarchist, and he said about the freedom and coexistence and all that. I said, yeah, I did the same thing. I said, what about people that are disabled or the elderly or infirm, the ones that can't look after themselves? I said, apart from that, it's great. It's fantastic. It's idealistic. Everybody can get on with their lives. But what about the social issues that challenge society in that way? And, you know, I agree.
And what do we do when, I mean, here's the thing, we're not going to be global, right? So what do we do if we are all a free man nation? So the United States breaks up, everybody's free, go grab a spot and build a house and do whatever the fuck you want. And now China comes over and goes, well, you're not buying our stuff anymore. We have no use for you, and we own much of your country anyway, so give it to us. What do we do? There's no, are the people going to be able, I mean, I really seriously don't think that even with a mass of people, I mean, look what happens whenever people get together, when the government goes and takes over. Government has drones, robots, things we haven't even seen yet, because they're 100 years ahead of us in technology. Are they going a few guys with some, you know, enough ammunition for a 3-year war in their house and enough rations going to be able to take on all these robots we could send in, with ever having to have a fighting force come in to bomb their house and take them out? So I don't see any of these movements as being of anything, and they're not getting along together. I've been to groups, I've been on websites where supposedly these guys meet, they can't even get along amongst each other. How are they going to get along when the fucking end of the world comes?
And it only takes one.
See, I really worry for mankind post-apocalypse. That's because I think something is going to happen. It's either going to be an EMP, something's going to wipe out our technology at some point, whether it's now or 100 years from now. I'm not going to sit here and debate, but it will eventually happen. This technology we've become so akin to is going to go away. Now, what are we going to do?
Yeah, living benders.
I'm not ready.
You go back to what you did before you had the technology, James.
But I wasn't there. I didn't. I've always had the technology. I always had a TV in my house, always.
I never had. When I was younger, we never had TVs, we never had electric, we never had water, we never had gas.
You're ahead of me, bro. You're ahead of me, because in my house, I was 1960s wonder years.
Yeah, but you see,
well, listen, I know that if it went back to there, it would be difficult, because I'm an old geezer now, but I certainly have the know-how how to survive.
Yeah, a good hazel bender, you know how to make a wood burner, you know.
That's it. Yeah. And you know what? Human beings are remarkable at survival.
Yeah.
Who's going to make sure the women aren't getting raped and the children being molested?
My pitchfork.
Well, I mean, again, I could say something pretty.
Well, or are we all going to star chamber it, or is it going to be just that everybody gets together and we all decide who to kill?
Well, I think first and foremost, James, you haven't got a problem. You know how to take care of yourself. I think most of us on this channel.
Only emotionally. I'm spiritual. I feel very spiritually blessed with love. I think that's my gift to people. That's what I try to give. But I'm not. Put me on a farm, dude, and I wouldn't know shit about milking a cow.
You would
growing a bit of wheat or I tried growing a pot plant once, and man, I wanted that thing to grow.
You could look after the disabled people, couldn't you? Like, you know, whilst somebody.
I would try, but I would need the help of others. Are there going to be more with me? Come join. Come, let's go buy an island and let's go live on it and make it work. And then if it works, maybe we could show the world. But let's instead of talking, let's do it.
Yes,
let's go find an island.
Stab would come along and show you how to grow some stuff and show you.
Can we crowd? Hey, let's all get together and start. We want to buy an island. Let's start a crowd fund. Seriously, to test this idea of working together and finding a way that humanity. All in we're going to need Muslims, Catholics, Christians, atheists. We're going to need every idea and belief system represented there, and this is an experiment to see if we can get along.
Well, listen, James, the thing is, I worry about, you said about the world going tips up. I worry about the youth. The youth today. I mean, the youth are meant to be looking after the elderly, but they can't even look after themselves. What's going to happen when we're gone?
They can't make a cup of tea, a lot of them.
You and I, my friend, may face some difficult things in our elder years that the other generations previous to us never saw. And if we don't get the young people to understand our plight, we'll see things that'll be, believe me, we'll want to die.
Well, this is the problem, you see. This is one of the problems of many, many problems. And when I speak to young people, they really don't have a clue about hard times.
They haven't faced their own death yet. They haven't faced their own death. You've got to face your own death. Young people, look at death, examine death, and realize you are only here, but like that, it's gone. So how important really are you? You can make yourself important by taking this blippy moment and trying to be what you want the world to be. Be it. People will follow you if it's right.
It takes a long time for youngsters to
not
realize they're not immortal, you know.
Can I?
No, but there are some positive signs. And being an old Grinch like I am, I do actually go and look at modern things in technology. And you mentioned earlier on, and Jeff mentioned it, and Ian mentioned it. They mentioned a certain thing called Bitcoin.
Right.
Now, Bitcoin is just a digital currency, right? It's just what they call a blockchain currency. I don't know a lot about it, but from what I know about it is out of the 250 countries in this world, it's ranked 125 most valuable currency out of the countries. Now, half of the countries in the world ain't got as much value as Bitcoin. Now, that's quite significant.
James, can I touch on the point you made before I accidentally clicked myself off and had to come back in? You were mentioning about how different societies work, and I've got something I'd like to put up on screen for you here. If I screen share it a sec. Screen.
I'm all over the place.
Right. I'm just getting used to this, so I got
okay, I got to get your screen up. Hold on.
That wasn't it.
There we go. Okay, now I see it.
Right. Okay, down here.
Have you heard of a thing called Oroville? There's a place called Oroville, and it's in India. It's like a project that they've got.
I've seen that. Yes.
This looks like. Wait a minute. This has. No. This reminds me of Disney World.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It might look like that, but what it is actually is a little town that they've started.
Well, did you know Epcot was originally supposed to be a town? Epcot, really, when you look at like the Venus Project, it's always amused me. I made even a video about it. It looks like Disney's original concept for Epcot.
This is basically, essentially, what this is a town that doesn't use money at all.
That's right. Yeah.
It's in southern India, I think. So let me just read a little bit about it for you.
There you use your karma. You pay with karma.
Yeah, well, I mean, these people get along together. They just contribute. They just contribute of themselves. So many hours.
Well, they're not taught consumer capitalism. I mean, you teach greed.
Educated entirely different. The entire society is that they've built up.
Education is key.
I mean, it's not a small society, admittedly, and it's a sort of project they've got going. But let's just have a little look and see what it says.
Oh, please.
Cool.
To be a universal town where men and women of all countries are able to live in peace and progressive harmony above all creeds, all politics, and all nationalities. The purpose of Oroville is to realize human unity.
Excuse me, I got to go buy some tickets. I got to head off here. Just kidding.
Oh, right. It's got all the information on here. If you look it up, Auroville, and have a little look, they've got their own charter, they've got their own all their different ways of doing it, their own education research system, their own arts and culture and health and wellness, and their own industry and commerce and everything.
Wow.
But because they actually obviously do trade with their surpluses with places outside of Auroville, but actually within Auroville, everything's just provided for. You know, without actually using cash. So as far
It's interesting. I would like to look more into it before I actually make a judgment on it, but it does look very fascinating. I see some things that that are concerns, because I'm afraid, like, could a person get caught up? I mean, I see it does have a lot of, like, notice yoga mentioned, and I'm not opposed to these ideas, but I believe that there are some false thinkings that sometimes come out of or become sort of I don't know, they're cult-like, meaning that it can lead you into a particular belief system, which is wonderful in some ways, but at the same time may take away some of your identity. And I don't
like the Venus Project, really.
I don't want identity plucked from people. I like the diversity of things. I don't mind argument. It would be wonderful if we argued over things that mattered, though, rather than so many things in the world that don't.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of these things, a lot of these little projects and things, I think they all start off very well, and they're sort of along the lines of a sort of communist. It's not really a communist basis as such, but it actually was designed to work within communes, which are very small, and they do successfully work, but they don't work on national scales, which is what they've tried in, you know, things like.
Well, my concern with something like that project, for example, would be this. Let's say you get somebody in there who is a Christian, or you get another person who's a Jew, and you get another who's a Muslim, and I believe they can cohabitate. I believe an atheist can cohabitate. I've got many atheist friends, and I'm a very spiritual person. But that at the same time, I want to see, do they try to force you to go, well, don't talk about your religion, or do they offer, like, Christian church for Christians and a Buddhist temple for Buddhists and a Muslim place for Muslims and whatever? They should see, to me, yes, I would love to have a place where we all were one great religion that all work together. But I don't, again, like everything else, that's not how we are, and I do value diversity. I don't want us to be all one gray goo. I like the colors. I like the rainbows of life. I like differing with people. I like a little bit of good solid argument when it's educated.
What I've seen at Auroville is very diverse. They've got people from all different religions, creeds, and nationalities all living together and getting on really well by the scene.
That's what I want to see. So long as it doesn't lead you down a path to believe you must believe this kind of thing.
No one's born hating anything.
I was going to say, we don't want uniformity. We want to be able to, like you said on a previous show about acceptance, this is where we need to be, is with acceptance of you know,
just tolerance. Tolerance is not the key here. It's acceptance. Tolerating something is saying, yeah, I hate your guts, but you can be here. I would rather say, yes, I disagree wholly with your ideas, but you know what? I'm going to love you anyway because you're part of me.
That's right.
We're all one big thing. We're all planet Earth.
Have mastered that quite well from what I've seen in this Auroville thing. There is, it's all, everybody accepts everybody else, and what they've done is they made like a shrine thing with like an earth thing. So they take earth, or somebody's brought earth from all you know, mud or earth or whatever you want to call it, from different parts of the world.
Wow.
All in this pot as a sort of shrine to their unit.
How cool. I like that. That's really cool.
It seems to work anyway at the size it is at the moment. Whether it would work as a bigger project if it was expanded out to income other areas, I don't know. But
yeah, that's it.
I'm all for the experiment. I was even like, I was actively against like the Venus Project in one way, but in another way I was like, hey, but if that's what you want to do, just don't force me to have to go live there. But if you want to go start this off and show people how it works, go get some money, go do it, and I'll watch. And if I think that it's working, I may choose to move there, or I may choose to build another one, you know, but show me an example of it actually working before you try to say, well, I think this is the only way this could work is if you just hand all your resources over to us and then we can do all this.
We do end up with a one world government.
Anytime you got to pay up front, you should question it. Anytime you got to pay up front, question it.
Scientology.
I think
I
that's
don't think anything is going to ever work, guys, regardless whether you want to call it populism, communism, you know, nationalism. None of it works. You know why? Because we are all individuals, we have diversity, and we have free will. Now, if you lose free will, then you've lost everything.
I love that movie. And Willie was such. Oh, we're talking about free will. Okay, I'm sorry.
I think the crux of the matter is basically with any society, the crux of any society is based on whether that society is abundant enough to give the people the stuff that they need. If everybody's got the stuff they need, you know, fuck it, they should be happy. There should be problems. You know, if you're living next door to an Asian or an Arab or whatever, you know, it shouldn't even enter into it. You've got everything you need. They've got everything they need. You should all be able to get along hunky-dory and just live and let live. If we could live like that, as long as we got the abundance there to cater for our normal everyday needs, everything else you get there. And if you look at it as a bonus, if you get a mobile phone, well, it's a bonus. If you get a flat screen TV, if that's what you like, if that's what floats your boat, then that's a bonus. But as long as you've got your food, your clean drinking water, your organic food, you know, your
solar panels or windmill.
as long as you've got home to live in and heating, if you're living in a cold climate or whatever, and your healthcare, then you've got everything you need, haven't you? Really.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it. So any society, produce a society that can produce the abundance of the things that you need, and that should be the job. That should be job sorted, shouldn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I would say there, Jeff, is that is all anybody could possibly need, and it's not need. It's a problem. It's want. Is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah. That.
You know, want is the problem, and. I'd just like to say on things changing. Well, they will change in a way. Some ways this year and the year after that and the year after that, because the unipolar world of the USA and their industrial complex and the rest of it is actually going to change. It has to change because carry on. So there is a talk of a new thing with the populism, but there's also been talk of another thing, which is not that old. It's always happened. Instead of unipolar world, it's going to be a multipolar world, where every country has a say on what goes on in the world. That eventually will come about. That will come about. But it's going to take a lot of time. There's a lot of people dragging their feet that want to own everything. You know, when the Soroses die off.
Trouble.
When the Soroses and all the rest of these greedy people and the Kissingers and all the rest do pop off, then I think, you know, we may start to see some changes. Perhaps not in my lifetime, but hopefully for the younger people. So on a positive note, rather than a bad downer note, I think there's some good to look forward to in 2017. And like I said about the people poo-poo the cryptocurrency, but that is here to stay. It will be the future for the young people. But the decentralization of money, as people call it, money, is going to happen too, because I see it on the internet. And people are actually, there's some sites, if you're very good at putting articles up and putting things up and have something to say, you actually get paid in crypto.
That's right. Yeah, there's loads of them out there. You get paid per word, I think, or something like that.
Absolutely.
I think that what we're going to see, though, is really something good ultimately, because what I want you to understand is no matter what chaotic thing occurs, there can be good that comes out of it. We can all talk about the evils of what 9/11 caused, but many of us might not be here on the internet had let 9/11 not happen, saying and being together with some people who are politically expedient, because we wouldn't have connected. There would have been no real big thing. going on. Maybe just Alex Jones on there talking about, you know, big owls and stuff in a park. But, you know,
actually, some of James's concerns about what James said earlier about, you know, if an EMP blast hit us or something. Now, to me, you see, this is where we would struggle because a lot of people that live in cities haven't got access to land to make their own food.
Yeah.
If the internet went, well, if the electronics goes down, the computers go down, the internet goes down, and then you can't access your bitcoins and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing, is it?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, some civilizations that we might refer to as primitive, like,
you know, I almost am for. I'm almost for the alien attack.
Yeah.
You know why? Because for once we would all go, fuck, we gotta do something, and we would get together as a planet. And in that moment, I mean, that was Reagan's dream. I know a lot of people make stuff out of it and go, see, it proves aliens. I don't know about aliens for sure, but I know that if something like that did occur, it would bring humanity together. Would we win? Probably not. We're probably just food for the beings, and they just come here to reap us. They're just waiting till we get to a certain number, and then that's when it's like, dinner time.
But my point to all of this is the fact that we haven't been educated to survive.
Yeah,
like the Bushmen of the Kalahari know how to go and catch their dinner and chuck a spear in something or whatever, but we don't know. We probably wouldn't even, well, we'd struggle to make bloody fire if we didn't have all the technology that we got. Try rubbing
no big lighters.
I know people that can't make a cup of tea. Genuinely.
You know,
Genuinely.
I mean, try rubbing two sticks together and see how long it takes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Saying,
general survival, it's not, you know.
Exactly.
I've often said the true survivalists should not be storing up food or guns. What they really need are this. They need one good gun, cigarettes and lighters. Cigarettes and lighters. You can carry them around easily. You can trade them for anything.
You can grow tobacco. You can buy like 3,000 acclimatized seeds for like.
Right, but while you're waiting to grow it, and while everybody's waiting to grow it, stock up on those. If you're going to stock up for your like end of the world scenario, instead of putting food down there, you'll be able to trade food for cigarettes, and it's lighter carry. If you have to leave, you can pack a whole bunch of cigarettes in. Whereas if you're trying to take canned goods, that's going to be a little heavier weight.
In the short term, like high street shops should start paying tax instead of vilifying everyone on welfare. Because like Atos, for example, got like 500 million for checking that whether people are sick or not, and the actual welfare bill at the end of the day was actually less than the means testing. And you got shops like Topshop, Vodafone, Amazon, and they dodge so much in tax, like in this country, that, you know, we are missing out on so much money, and they let that slide without anyone thinking about it. And then they go on about, oh, this woman's got 2 children and makes this much of. It's like they're going for the wrong people, you know.
Oh, dude. Well, here in America, you know, you look at the budget and you say, okay, here's our military budget. Now, what about our social? Now you look at our social programs. You take all of our social programs. You take in all of them. I don't care, everything from Medicare and Medicaid and all of the food stamp programs and all of that we give out. Their free housing or housing things.
Yeah.
Put it all together and compare that to your military budget and tell me. If anybody, you could take a little off that military budget and take care of all of that.
Everybody, yeah.
So don't give me this right-wing propaganda bullshit that somehow we can't afford to take care of the poor. That is just...
It's absolute bollocks, yeah.
And by the way, don't think I'm all leftist either. I don't want people to think I'm just like trying to bring the communist menace to us, because there was a time, most of you who have known me for a while know I used to be very outspoken against communism.
Right.
I even used to talk against socialism till I actually got around a true socialist and learned what it was, because what I was told it was not what it was.
Reefer madness, but you know.
Why don't they just change? Why don't they get rid of the word communist, socialist, nationalist, and just I give a fuckist? You know.
I think we just need to get rid of the ism. Get rid of that word ism, and then we can just be social. And then we can have like the socialness.
I've always preferred asms to isms. I mean, look at things like orgasms, you know,
Yeah.
you don't get the same problems as isms.
Yeah.
I want to be a democratically vague idea'd country. That's
Yeah.
Well, I think when you mention the military budget, James, and what they spend on that. But I'll tell you the biggest wastage the military budget in all Western democracy. Well, Western, right? The
military-industrial complex. Let's just say it like it is. We were warned here in the U.S. several times by presidents about it. It is in control. Yes.
Well, the bigger budget in America, I would think, I don't know, but certainly in the UK, is regulation, bureaucracy, and what we'd call civil servants. The wastage in that department and what they do with it, from councils to civil servants to people who serve the system, which is huge.
But Sam, it's not just waste.
The wastage and the corruption that's used from filtering off money. No tax pays for anything. When you look at it, no tax pays for nothing.
No, it's fuck all.
That's a con. That's a con.
Yeah.
But you think about waste as well, Stav. The average person wastes about 20 to 30% of the food that they've got. They throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
Supermarkets as well are no better. The supermarkets throw out about 30%.
Yeah, I do the skipping quite often.
What would I know about getting a scragging piece of meat when I was a kid and my family grew up, right? And then boiling the bones.
Yeah, it get eaten. You make soup out of it.
Bones.
You make soup.
You know,
I still do that.
Well, you know,
I as well.
I raid the Iceland skip, like, you know.
Here in America, we throw out food like after one bite because they don't like it. Oh, I don't like this today.
Bone broth is supposed to be a really good cure for like things like leaky gut syndrome and all that. I've heard it's really, really nutritious for you.
Well, you said about abundance, and that's quite true. The abundance, there's plenty on the earth to feed everybody. There's plenty to have a comfortable life. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of building materials. There's plenty of electricity. There's plenty of gas. There's plenty whatever. Right? There might be some difference of opinions on how you go about using certain, shall we say, hydrocarbons and all that sort of thing. But that's debatable, and people can talk that over. But there's no shortage of anything on this world, and it's all a big con.
It's not so much the shortage of anything; it's the allocation of things. It's an unfair allocation. But the problem that exists, I know, is also the economy of how do we reach in and pull back the money that belongs to us without, like, you know, going and having a French Revolution. You know,
we bypass the system, James. We bypass the system, and that's what I see actually starting. It's only grassroots. It's only small. But when I say small, cryptocurrency may not be the answer, but something along those lines where it's decentralized, it takes it out of the banking cabal's hands. They can't do nothing around with an algorithm. They can't stop the way it's being done.
No.
And they know it, and that's why they want to try and take it over, but they can't take it over, but they see it coming. It may not be cryptocurrency in its present form, but something is on the horizon because they are panicking quite a lot. And when you do, I've done quite a bit of research. I don't know the full ins and outs. It's very complicated. Blockchains and cryptocurrency. It's beyond my mind, but I understand the basics of it.
There are ways of frauding it. There are ways of frauding the bitcoins and that. You know, there's around where, like, if you copy a Bitcoin address into your clipboard, it changes it.
There's a lot of that going on because it's still in its basic infancy. Really. But
it wouldn't
but
take much.
Something along those lines, because at the end of the day, the only difference is if it's a peer-to-peer. If I said to James, look, James, I'm going to send you some numbers peer-to-peer. You can take those numbers and you can go and spend it anywhere. But it's my peer-to-peer numbers to James. And James say, well, I'll give you some peer-to-peer numbers and you go and spend it in the UK. That's just between me and James. No middleman.
No mining. I mean, there are sort of currencies where, you know, mining is not necessary to a point, you know, and that is peer-to-peer currency kind of thing.
I never had any problem though with what I would call fair middlemen. Like if a privately held bank by some real citizens who work democratically, like employee-owned type companies, where people can get together and unify, not for profit. That's the problem. We got to stop looking at profit. Profit is money nobody intends to spend. It's the money over and above what's necessary. Why are we always working for stuff that's not necessary? Yeah, let's have a little savings.
Yeah.
But why don't we run the world like we run a family?
Why does one person need 50 billion?
The thing is, the pig in the that's a pig. The problem is with it, and it's always been an age-old, centuries problem, is usury. Let's be honest. Usury is the problem here.
Yeah.
Well, usury was even illegal by the people who are using it because, I mean, let's face it, the predominance of banking facilities are Jewish held. That's well known. Yeah. I'm not being anti-Semitic by saying that. They know, the Jews know that. Yeah. And the problem is that their laws specifically say you can't charge usury, yet why are the banking people who supposedly are the presidents of these companies allowing this law of God to be breached for the corporate interests?
Yeah.
If they just came back to the social responsibility intended by the law, then they would realize that they cannot own the earth. The earth must be given to them by the people if it is to be theirs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, get out of the way and stop telling people what is your land and what's yours and this is ours and stealing it back through warfare, and have trust in your God that he will give it back in his own way and will not need weapons. You know what? Israel should I've always felt this. Israel needs no weapons. If they cannot defend, if their God cannot defend them being there, they have no right to that land because it's on that merit that they claim that land through the Balfour Agreement anyway.
They're the only people that haven't signed the nuclear proliferation agreement. Everyone owns nukes.
Well, they know Israel always claims they don't have nukes, but we all know they do.
Oh,
they have per capita, they got the most.
The Samson option,
and by the way, you know, it's more anti-Semitic for me to talk about. I want to make this very clear for those of you who might think I'm being anti-Semitic for bringing up or racist. This is not. This is all public knowledge, and I haven't said anything this race of people or this family of people. You know what? I know many wonderful Jewish people who I entrust and love greatly.
My wife is Jewish.
I understand. I am not. And yet you can be, there's many Jews who are non-pro-Zionists. They don't believe in the Zionist philosophy.
That's what
Zionism is what stole the land from a people and now claims it under the power of God. And if that be true, then get rid of your weapons, drop them all, get rid of that whole thing.
Yeah, and they're not Jewish, they're Zionists.
Well, they're Khazarians, if you want to get honest. But most people aren't aware of the Khazarian empire, what that's all about. So.
Yeah. Well, perhaps I should have phrased it differently because I didn't drag it up. I mean, you ran with it, James. What I should have said was no interest on money lending. Pay for a service.
Yeah.
By all means, 1%, 2%, whatever it is of the contract of that deal, that one specific deal. Then that's fine. I wouldn't want something for nothing. I would expect to, if it's a good service and it's a contract.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong.
The alternative to paying for a service is to do it via taxation and have all the banks nationalised. And here's the way I look at it. If you're gonna go down that road, for example, the way to fix it, I think personally, would be to, number one, you would have to nationalise all the banks so that the services are paid for by the tax, and everybody would be on a standard, basic, flat wage within the banking industry. So you don't.
How do you trust your government, though?
So you don't have example like the big chief getting the massive bonuses and everybody else on minimum. Ridiculous.
How do you trust your government to administrate that?
Well, that's the crutch. That's another crutch of the matter. But what I'm saying is the way to do it would be to ban usury, and at the same time, exactly the same time that you ban usury, by banning usury, you prevent a debt bubble from forming.
Yeah.
the same time as doing that, you do massive debt forgiveness. That means wipe out all the debts, every single one of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Doing that, one time only, mind you, one time only, you wipe out all the debt. When you do that, you kill the debt bubble. Okay?
Yeah.
So you killed the debt bubble and prevented further debt bubble. That's simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The next part of it would be to actually, you could still do as they do in the current banking system, whereby you create money by loaning it into existence. That is fine. That's not a problem, as long as you retire it out of circulation when it's paid back. By doing that, you keep the money supply 1-to-1. You see, you don't deflate or you don't get circulatory inflation or deflation. What happens is the money supply is kept more or less the same. The only inflation you would get or deflation would be based on market supply and demand. So that might likely, but the circulatory inflation and deflation would be gone. All you have to do is loan the money into existence and then retire it out of circulation when it's paid back. That's all you need to do. That would completely get rid of all the circulatory inflation going. I think that would be a simple system to use. It wouldn't be that hard to implement. It's not. It doesn't target the poor in society, which is what a current predatory system does. The current predatory system relies on. It's only the poor people that need to go back to a bank for a loan, isn't it? And they're the ones that are getting clobbered with the heavy interest rates. So it's totally. Well,
when you have your lawyers colluding with the people who are your lawmakers colluding with the banks, then what you end up with are things that are always going to allow the banks to have this power of usury. And the thing is, if you try to go to another system, these same lawyers are going to find ways to shut your systems down. They're doing it now with the press. You're seeing this whole thing with fake news and all that. It's all just a ruse to get control of the press.
I mean, you don't even need to do that with the current system. They don't even need to do that, because if you look at, like, if Stav came along and said, like, I'm going to bring in a bank where everybody just pays a service charge for their banking, whatever, then all the ones that have got the money will just stay with the current system because they don't pay anything. Do you see what I'm saying? The ones that are paying everything are the ones that are borrowing the money.
I just see the transition to get people going on that is going to be tough because of the legal system. It's a good idea. I mean, certainly the only way we're ever going to transition is to remember, one, it's up to us. I think that was an important thing I noticed even on. I mean, if we're going to say something about this year that's coming up, it's up to us what it is. It's up to you, each individual. You can make it what you want to make it. It's perspective. You're going to see some evil, horrible things going on, but you can make the best of it. Or you can see some really great things going on and feel like, well, that sucks. You know, everybody's going to have a different perspective, and we're going to continue that. And that's a good thing. That's good that we have these different perspectives. But be the change, be the love, be the thing, the catalyst.
For us, James, already. I mean, heaven forbid, if we were stuck without the food banks, we really would be in trouble. We've got people that are doing for the people, with the food banks. We've got free cycle for people that want to trade free stuff. If they need something for free, they can go on free cycle and get themselves a new table and chairs or office.
I'll have some thing to give away.
Give away stuff that they no longer require or need.
Well, you're talking to a guy who used to dumpster dive and then give the stuff away to poor people. So because there was good stuff in the dumpsters, I couldn't use it all. So I'd collect it, clothes, food, all these different things. People come by and go, do you have this? People would come to my house to shop.
Sometimes I end up with like 100 chocolate bars, and I'm never going to eat all that, so.
Well, and I was one of those people who gave away stuff for free anyway. So it
was
I
never sell it. Yeah.
I was just a free store collector, but it eventually took over my life because I had too much stuff.
Yeah,
I still have too much shit.
Yeah, it goes moldy.
Some of it is just in my way now. It's like the stuff owns me. I've really sort of become disillusioned with stuff. And I guess as you get older, you realize you're not going to take any of it with you. None of the kings of Egypt did. So
I've got to move house, so I'm only too aware of how much stuff I got at the moment. So
isn't it mind blowing? You really realize that every crevice of your house eventually becomes stuffed.
Yeah.
So
really badly, doesn't it? I was just going to put out actually a bit of information for people. A lot of people, I know you were talking earlier about planned obsolescence, where you go out and buy something, and then as soon as the guarantee's up, it collapses or stops working. Well, there is something that a lot of people don't know about, called the Consumer, I think it's called the Consumer Trading Act of 1979, whereby called the Consumer Trading Act of 1979. Something has got to last, by law, it has to last a reasonable length of time. So that even if you buy something that's got a standard 12-month manufacturer's guarantee on it, packs up like the day after, you can still go back to the shop and say, look, it hasn't lasted a reasonable period of time. Under the Consumer Trading Act, I think, of 1979, I'm not quite sure on that, but you can, I think, is up to about 6 years a product not to last, or at least a reasonable time in what the law considers a reasonable.
Well, I found out my tablet. This is what I was going to say earlier. They gave me 2 years on it. That's what I found out. It's good for 2 years. That's what they. That's the life expectancy of a tablet. So 2 years.
Things with obvious controlled obsolescence. I mean, they'll get a component and it needs a heat sink on it, but they'll raise it with like ceramic whatevers, and you know it will last a certain amount of time. But you know that eventually that component is gonna fry. You know, because it needs to be, you know, the heat taken off it and stuff. You know. And you know, almost everything I've ever built, I can see the bit that's designed to explode. Like, you know.
Well, obviously, nothing lasts forever. Everything does break down.
Yeah, I wanted to point out something. PJ just wanted to add. PJ just wanted to add something in. I wanted to share this real quick. She said they changed the Sales of Goods Act in 2015 October to Consumer Act 2015. Whatever that means.
That's correct. That's correct. That's what it was called. Not Consumer, it was the Sale of Goods Act. And they changed it last year, I'm afraid.
How's it changed, Stav?
Well, because it's not under reasonable amount of time, because I mean, I took stuff back. I used the Sale of Goods Act many years ago on electrical appliances, white goods stuff, up to 3 or 4 years. 2 or 3 years after the manufacturer's guarantee ran out, and I got almost all my money back or exchanged for new products.
But
That's good.
You can't do that now because they put something in the clause about reasonable time. And you know, this, like everything in the legal system, this is where one thing is, I do actually say, with the Freeman on the land movement, it's not necessarily law. It's perverted law, right? And legal doesn't mean to say it's right or it's good or it's decent. It's got nothing to do with any of those morals.
So they've taken away consumers' rights then, effectively. That's what you're saying, Stav, yeah?
Yes, pretty much, because lots of people were starting to use it. I put it out on Facebook when I was on it. When I first got on there, it's one of the first things I said to people in hard times is, look, don't go out and spend for a new washing machine. Don't get hoodwinked that, you know, a day after the manufacturer's warranties run out, you've got to pay another £600 or $800 in American to get another one, because you'll pretty much get your money back. And I just mention the Sale of Goods Act to the manager of the store, and he'll go gulp and he'll swallow, because he will know what you're on about. And you can take him to the small claims court for under 50, it's about 40 quid online. You could do it. They've changed it all now, Jeff, but I don't know the full ins and outs.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power.
My washing machine is about 20 years old.
Thank you for that info. So I apologise to any viewers that might be listening that have. I take back everything I've just done. But I suppose what you could do, until that is widely known, you could still try it on for a little while.
Why not? Yeah.
You know,
I think if it's a 1 year's warranty, manufacturer's warranty, which is rubbish. Well, manufacturer's warranty is all about the shop. It's all about the shop. But you as a customer, years ago we used to say this, which doesn't apply anymore, and I'm sure James remembers it. No matter what, if you worked in a shop, the customer was always right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Part of customer service training is to realize that person is like a guest in your house, so you want to treat them with respect.
I used to make
Yeah.
mecha detectors, and it was like Geiger counter, but when it's pointing towards mecha, it goes tick 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 tick, so that people can pray towards the Wailing Wall or whatever.
Oh yes, yes, yeah.
Interesting. Because I'm an engineer and I've made loads of things, so.
A mecha finder. Here you
A
go.
mecha detector, yeah.
High-tech Muslims in action.
Yeah.
Well, I actually built my own metal detector, Ian.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Many years ago.
I want a Holy Spirit detector. I want to know when the Holy Spirit's around. I want to know that.
Was it any good?
Yeah. Anyway.
Find anything?
Sorry.
You find anything with the metal detector?
Yes, quite a lot. I used to go a
Really?
lot when I was a lot younger. Yes. In actual fact, it was a period of my own archaeology, not academical archaeology, because what I used to find, I actually had some sort of belief in because I found it with my own hands.
Oh, what was it? Go on.
So I found quite a few bits and pieces in my part of the country which doesn't match up with the historical, academical books. So there we go.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I think we can all pretty much agree. I think most of us who are skeptical and have studied anything about history know the histories that we're taught are highly changed to the needs of the people who won the wars.
Yeah, the winner writes the books.
The dog who ate the other dogs also ripped up the dog's previous story, which actually we should have heard. We would have known more history that way. And in order to really know the true history of the Earth, now we're going to have to wait for the rocks to cry out, if you will, and show us. And I think there may be something. I am fascinated with what is going on down in. This is a whole other topic, but what do you guys think is going on down in down at southern Antarctica? Yes,
Antarctica, yeah, because it's unfreezing over.
Well, there's a lot of important people that suddenly visited there. What is going on that's caused all these people to suddenly take an interest in a place that we just... I mean, I'm not saying... Some people are making a lot of speculation. I'm not trying to speculate.
James Bird, he said he saw like loads of weird stuff down there, unless he was tripping.
Well, let me explain that. I do believe that I do kind of adhere to sort of a modified version of a Hollow Earth story.
Yeah, I'm open to,
I'm not sure exactly what it is. Could be other dimensional, but there's something that has to do with an entrance to the Earth. It may be just a portal. I don't know.
The Earth's 3 times bigger than it was, so there must be big caverns of empty space in the Earth. There's no doubt about it.
Does anybody think, like I do, that maybe they're finding that as the ice is melting, they're not only concerned environmentally, but they're also concerned that they may have found something of another culture? I do tend to think that we're finding an older culture, which will change. I mean, I think that's what they're going to do is that they're having to face something. They're going to have to reveal to us sooner or later that they found stuff so old it couldn't have been like 6,000 years ago, more like 60,000 or 100,000 years ago. And people, this is going to change all the way we view history because we can't have been just cavemen. And we'll show that the Earth goes through major changes. And each one of these major changes, last one was the flood, but it was not just a flood. It was something else too.
They've only got to find something made of plastic or,
No, we're going to find some potentially really amazing shit because realize stuff that's frozen over quickly, which is what I think happened, is going to have still things down there we're going to be blown away by. Now, this is...
Science, the actual science says it's not melting, the ice is shifting. And the reason why it's shifting, even though, there's two theories to this, the scientific fact is that the poles
are shifting
magnetically have moved a long way. The current South Pole magnetic is now in the Pacific.
I don't think that it's the whole thing is melting. I think you're right. I think it's a portion of it that's melting. The portion, though, is that's being exposed is showing us some things. I think this is speculation.
There's a massive object under there, but
imagine if you saw suddenly like Stonehenge underneath there, only better. More technologically advanced. What about people using tools? A lot of things have rotted away, but in ice, What if they suddenly found lasers? You know.
What if they found stuff on the back of the moon, like, you know?
Oh well, and I agree that the moon is a very odd object, and you know these are things though that we can speculate all day. There's no, I still want hard science in order to, before I'm going to say I believe this.
Bit off topic, but yeah.
That's okay. That's all right, James, because the prediction is, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'll make a prediction now that the poles will continue to shift in 2017. There you go.
Hey, folks, can I just interject there slightly? Back on the consumer product thing, I found the latest information on it. Can I just screen share it for you?
Please do.
Yes. We predict sunscreen will be a good investment, so be sure to invest in sunscreen.
You're going to have to go quite shortly.
Can you see that, folks?
And a towel. You need a towel and sunscreen.
I always know what my towel is. If you want,
all right. It says here, brought after. I don't. Can you see it? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm reading it. Yeah.
Brought after 1st of October 2015. This is which consumer rights. It says if you want to buy the 30-day right to reject, you have to give the retailer one opportunity to repair or replace any goods or digital content which are of unsatisfactory quality and purpose or not as described. You can choose whether you want the goods to be repaired or replaced, but the retailer can refuse if they can show that your choice is disproportionately expensive compared to the alternative. If you attempt that a repair or replacement is unsuccessful, you can then claim a refund or a price reduction if you wish to keep the product.
Right.
After which time you have a right to kill the bastard.
Right. Well, it says, was a fault present at purchase? In a recent survey which found that only 13% of people knew that 6 months after purchasing a product, the onus is on you to prove a fault was present at the time of purchase in order to claim a refund, repair, or replacement. When we asked people how they would prove a fault was present at the time of purchase, 68% said they wouldn't know how to do this. The truth is, the law doesn't explain how you can prove a fault was present at the time of purchase, which can make it problematic when you're asked to do
loophole alert.
Guidance has tended to focus on getting an independent report from a repair shop or expert, but this advice dates back to a time when these were a common presence on high streets. You could be hard pressed to find one now, but it is worth looking in your local area for a local repair shop if you need to get an objective opinion. And I think there's there's other things to do with all this, like is the product of fit for purpose, for the purpose that it was actually purchased for, and things like that. I'm not absolutely certain.
I bought a razor for $19.95. I'm going to take it over here, but first I have to go get a report from this other vendor. It'll cost me $29.95 to have the report made, but then I'll bring it back and we'll have justice yet.
I've got to run, guys. I've got quarter of an hour to get to a shop, so I've got to run, I'm afraid.
Oh, who was that?
Me, Ian.
Oh, Ian. Oh, okay. I got to go here soon myself because I've got to go to the I guess you guys would call it the tobacconist.
That's my goal as well. So
I must go to the tobacconist.
All right, it was good to talk anyway. So see you soon. All right.
All right. Ian, love you, man. Cheers.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. There we go.
Well, just very briefly, Jeff.
Let me log back in because it says I'm presenting to everyone here, and I don't know how to get rid of it. So I have to.
Well, right now you're just presenting your mug.
Yeah, so I'll just log out and log back in. 1 second.
Okay. He's logging out, and he's going to log back. He's no longer presenting. Oh God, he's no longer with us. We're doomed.
Well, the thing is, Jeff, that Consumer Act has nothing to do with the Sale of Goods Act. The Sale of Goods Act is a statute.
Right.
And that's still in place today, and that's fit for purpose. The act, contracts which the acts apply, contracts to which the act applies. Right. See, so it's nothing to do with that consumer bill, whatever it is. This is a statute on its own, and Sale of Goods Act 1979 This applies to contracts of sale of goods made on or after the 1st of January 1894.
Wow.
And that still applies today.
So
So I would still go with the Sale of Goods Act.
So you can still get a refund up to a reasonable length of time, even after the guarantee.
6 years. You're right. With the Sale of Goods Act, and I've used it many times in the past, and I've taken electrical appliances back to shops. On some cases, 3 years, 2 years after the manufacturer's warranty had come out, and got a brand new replacement for it.
That's great. Yeah.
A surefire way to do that is to go in and take a valuable little tool. It's called a gun. You take it in there and you and you can get anything done. It's amazing. People will just bring it out. You don't say you're going to use it. You don't do anything. You just say, "Oh, I'm polishing this up while I'm talking with you here." They'll give you free things. It's amazing.
James, is this a love gun?
Oh, now I'm hearing. I'm a Kiss fan. Okay, sorry.
Anyway,
I don't. I obviously don't hate. I don't hate Jews because I love Kiss. You know, I mean.
Getting back to what you were saying about Jews,
I love Jews. I love Christians. I love atheists. I love Muslims. I love Catholics. I love animals. I love coffee. I love coffee. Oh, I love coffee.
The ones that are against Zionism are the ultra-Orthodox Jews. They're the ones that stick by the Torah, apparently. They rigidly. And they are actually against the Zionism.
I studied it. In fact, I got a lot of information from them back when I was going into a really massive study on Zionism, because I had always felt that there was something wrong with it, and I didn't know why. It was just a Christian church that I was like in the Christian church, and they're all like, the Jews are the chosen people, and I was like, well, wait a minute, what does it make us? Oh, we're grafted in by Jesus, and I was like, what's this? I don't see the grafting. Well, here's a verse. There's always a verse. It's never in context, but somehow this verse proves everything.
Well, the ultra-Orthodox, James, the ultra-Orthodox Jews believe that they can't have a state of their own until the Messiah comes back.
Right, he's got to sit on the throne, exactly. And I keep telling them that.
Yeah, whereas the Zionists, Zionism is basically the fundamental belief that they're entitled to have a state of their own. So
you've got people like Hagee, though, coming out and trying to. She's basically like an influencer. He gets paid by these people to go basically propagate this idea that somehow having this great love of Israel is part of being the Christian experience. And Israel actually means children of El, or children of God. If you don't have to be grafted in to be that. In fact, to be a true child of God just means you live a spiritual life that's in league with what you believe is a higher power. And so, it's
Israel is a faith, isn't it?
Well, I am not into dogma. Dogma to me gets in the way of faith, because to me, my faith is only my true faith is first and foremost in the things I see, feel, touch, smell, can prove undeniably. Then I have what I call ideas. I don't have beliefs. Beliefs can't be changed. Beliefs are set in stone. I have ideas, some of which are harder than others. But you know what? I'm always open to new ideas which could influence and bring me an aha moment, because, ladies and gentlemen, I love aha moments, even if I'm found wrong, especially if I'm found wrong. Because then,
James, if you're open to things, that's a good thing. But if you're by the same token, it's good to have a healthy level of skepticism as well, because if you haven't got that, then you tend to be a bit malleable minded, and then you can end up back in belief systems again.
Well, and I think you got to be a little of all of that. I think you have to, you don't want to throw out babies with bathwater. So you don't want to throw out everything of the idea of spirituality or the potentiality of there being a God just because you choose not to. Now, I realize the preponderance of the evidence really would promote the idea that there is no God. Truly, the evidence of physical evidence is there is no God. That this is just a happenstance world that happened by chance from a big bang that occurred and we don't know how. But, you know, and maybe there's some being in between that and where we're at now that would have claimed to be God, but maybe it's no longer here, or maybe it is something different than what we think, or maybe that voice that's inside of us that says it's God's only our inner imagination, or it might be greater than us. It might be something, maybe we're part of it and it's part of us and we are indeed a part of God. You see, but it's not for me to say that to people or tell people they must believe this, because I don't know and they can't tell me they know. They only have an idea, and I have an idea.
The way I portray my sort of my ideas about it, my mindset is if agnosticism is sitting on the fence, then I'm 1% agnostic and 99% probably atheist, I would say. But my reasoning for that is because if you look at the universe is made of energy and matter. Energy and matter equals energy, thus energy equals matter. Now, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred or harnessed, if you like. So if it can't be created, if the universe is made of energy and matter,
light and vibration,
then by that logic, you would say that, okay, it cannot have been created or destroyed. It's always been here in one form or another.
Right.
It's constantly in transience, but there is.
But it has to have come from somewhere. Something had to make it. Something had to make this creation, and they use that word because then they can say, "See, creator." But the real thing, and I'm with you, bro. Believe me, I have many atheist friends, and I am to some degree. I would say. I'm a walker in the path that Jesus walked, but what that path means isn't the same as it does to a traditional Christian. I will talk to a Christian as a Christian. I will talk to a Jew as a Jew. I will talk to a Muslim as a Muslim, because I am all these things. Everything's a part of me. I'm a part of it. So I'm trying to find the unity in all that. So I'm not going to sit here and argue these points of whether atheism is right or Christianity is right. I just want to find that medium of love in which the humanity can come together in a simple, common bond where we can say, hey, you know what? It's okay for you to be atheist and I can still be a Christian. It's okay for me to be a Christian and you can be a Jew. It's okay for me to be a Jew and you can still be a Catholic. You can be who you are and what you want to think and believe, as long as you don't inflict it upon me or my friends, because
diversity is the key here. Uniformity is what the powers that be want, because if they find it's easier to control the masses with uniformity. This is why they make you wear a uniform when you go to school, and why, you know, if you join the police, you wear a uniform, because they want uniformity. They don't want diversity, and that's where we're at odds with the system, I think, in a lot.
Well, and every time you make if you believe in a God, then every time you make a human law, you're distrusting the God, because the God should be the only judge. Therefore, you have no right to judge. So take away your laws if you're of God, because frankly, there should be no law upon you, nor should any. You should be living a righteous life. You should be living in the same goodness that you expect of others. You should be walking in the power of real love, and not in the idea that I'm special in any way. In fact, you should be the most humble amongst the lovers of people. You know, you should be not seeking any kind of grandiose ideas beyond that which helps your fellow man. And if you're not living like that and not living true to that, you're not truly living what I would consider the spiritual life, which means I'm remiss. I'm not making it. I am a hypocrite. And you know what? That's okay by me, because I'm going to allow you to be who you are. You can think how you think. I'm going to think how I think. I'm going to dream, but I'm also going to listen to you. I'm going to take into account your feelings and take those into me. And part of who you are is going to become part of my beliefs. And I hope part of my beliefs and my understanding becomes a part of you. And together, that's how we share in this wonderful soup mix we're putting together of life, rather than pulling back and holding on to our individual components and excluding all else.
I was just going to say, it's funny you should say that about, you know, religious beliefs and, you know, their sort of laws according to the religion, like the 10.
Better live them all. Better live every law.
Or whatever, for example. But I seen the definition of legality, in I think it's one of the encyclopedias, and the definition of legality was the undoing of God's law, apparently.
Huh. And in a sense, you know what, I would tend to agree. I mean, if you're maybe some people haven't even thought of this. I think of some of these things sometimes off the spur of the moment, then I have to go later and go, Oh, wow, that was kind of deep thought. And I think I just had a deep thought there during my ramblings. I think if people go and look at what I just said a few minutes ago and really examine that, and what you're saying is you're kind of seeing it too. And I'm not claiming, by the way, that I have, it just, for me, it was an epiphany a few minutes ago when it came out of my mouth.
Right.
And that's good. That's what I'm seeking here, by the way. We share in this experience.
Well, that's what it's all about, James. You know, expressing what's going on up there, and you know, and projecting.
Finding the peace in the diversity and loving it, and saying, you know what, I'm going to take in a bit of your colors too, and you can have some of mine, and we're going to share in the soup. It's the old thing where we bring, remember stone soup? I'm just the guy with the stone putting it in there. I've often said this simile.
Some live and let live, basically, isn't it? That's what.
Well, within the bounds of compassion. If you don't help out build the soup, I don't know what to do for you, because we're all in this together. We've got a big bowl of soup. Are we going to make a nice, healthy thing for everybody, or are we going to rip it all apart and hold on to our individual components? I mean, this is really the big question for what we're going to do next year. Are we going to further divide, or are we going to seek unity? I think not their unity. Don't go for somebody telling you how to unify. Don't even listen to me. Follow that inner being that wants this, and go for what it says to do, even if it's different than anybody else. You might find in wandering away from everyone that you're really wandering back to you, and therefore to everyone. You'll find yourself being. I'm a modern day. I came up with a term for it. I'm an urban hermit. I love. I am an urban hermit. I live in an urban environment, and I have an urban-like job, and I do the urban thing, and I live within pretty much the system. But philosophically, my mind, my heart belong to me. They go everywhere in the universe that know and delve into things that are great mysteries. And I'm never afraid to enter into anything through that vesicule, that part of me. As for the physical world I live in, the physical being I am, it really is secondary to this great, wonderful, emotional self that I am, the wolf within, if you will. That desire to feel and to breathe and to exude and to create art and to be a part of this wonderful soup mix that we are together and to enjoy it. And those are the things I seek, even within my hermitude, even though I stand off. I'm waiting for us to want to come together in this. I have the stone right there. It's in the bowl. Somebody pour in some water.
You're a very spiritual guy, by the way I perceive you anyway, James. But there are different ways that people have said to me, we're living beings on a spiritual journey, and yet there's other people who say that we're spiritual beings on a physical journey. So there's different ways to look at it. I don't know how you perceive your way of.
Are we a butterfly pretending we're a human, or are we a human that can pretend it's a butterfly? I don't know. I don't always have the answers to some of these deeper mysteries, but I love delving into them. And I think that sometimes if we get I'm a cynic too. Believe me, when it comes to things, I was taught by some of the best skeptics in the country. Professor Ray Hyman, PhD, great friend of mine for many years, a magician here in Oregon. Jerry Andrus. These people were called in by the government to examine people like Uri Geller. I mean, you can go look them up on the internet. These are well-known gentlemen who I just hung out with like friends. And they taught me how to see things from different perspectives that now I so value these men, that they showed me these perspectives that were different and from how I saw, so that I could eventually see the way that I do now, which is a skeptic and yet still hold on to a certain amount of what one might call a faith in something greater than myself.
What I tend to do, James, myself now, from what I've learned, is to be open-minded, retain a healthy skepticism.
Absolutely.
And by the same token, just absorb information. And if you don't know the answer to something, or if you haven't got enough information to make a decision on whether it's valid or whatever, just put the information to the back of your mind and keep it there for a later time, until you get all the information that you need to be able to make those sort of decisions and what have you. So, that's the way I tend to do things.
Oh, I totally agree. I think, Jeff, you're a gentleman, and I think if we examined each other's hearts, if we could see through all of our brains, ideas, and biases and structure that we both have somehow amassed, if we were to look deep within each other, I think you would see me and I would see you, because I do see you in me. I do see what you're saying. I do understand you, and I value you as a gentleman, Jeff. I think you have proven to me just in a very short time that you do see things very similar to me. And I thank you for that. Now, that doesn't mean I just want people to see things my way. The fact that you see things differently also is valuable and important to me. So maintain your autonomy. Don't try to, I'm not telling you to convince you to come to my side. I think we're on that same side. We're just examining it from two different angles.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about, you know, acceptance of each other's different views. And the more we expose each other and talk, if we keep talking, you know, about all these different topics, it is mind opening. It's mind opening. The more you venture into these different topics and different, not just topics, but the ways of perceiving different things, it does open your mind to all sorts of new ways of looking at things, you know.
Well, I used to say that truth demands to be questioned. You know, if you're telling the truth, you're never afraid of any question. But if you're telling a lie or you don't know for sure and you're trying to make up, you know, it's like a lot of religious people will do that. They're like, suddenly, you know, that somebody asks them a question that's outside of their sphere of knowledge, and instead of like answering the question, they play games, and they play these little I don't know, there's a term for it that it's not coming to mind at the moment, but it's a way of just kind of getting the subject away from what they don't know into something they do. And to me, they're losing something by not questioning their own ideas, their own faith, their own belief system.
I think we should question absolutely anything, because like you said, if it's truth, it'll stand up to any scrutiny whatsoever.
Absolutely. Truth will always be true in the end.
Let's give you an example. Holocaust denial. I don't know if you've touched on that subject. A lot of people have started touching on that subject because the governments, like in Europe for a very long time now, throughout Europe, if you even question the subject of Holocaust or whether it is real or whatever.
Racist! You're a racist! You're a Nazi!
You'd get, you get called those sort of things, but you'd get banged in jail. This has happened to an 87-year-old lady just recently in Germany. They've called her a Nazi grandma, and they stuck her in jail for, I can't remember for how long, but they've started doing the same in England now. They've started saying that if you question Zionism, if you question the Holocaust, if you do this, if you do that, anything to do with Israel, especially anything to do with Israel, or, you know, or comparisons between the Nazism and you get banged in jail for it.
You should never be prosecuted for questioning anything, nor by creating satire of it. You should be able to, like comedy, for example, should never be PC, ever.
Even if we're wrong, James, we should have the right to be able to criticize what
absolutely
that may be corrupt or something. You know, we've all got the right to make an asshole of ourselves and make a mistake. That's our God-given right, to be able to, well, if you believe in such a thing, to make that mistake, you know, and to express that. If it offends people, well, yeah, some things do touch on a nerve and do offend people, but that's all part of freedom of speech. You have to have that ability to be able to criticize those things as soon as.
And you know what? There's a joy to some degree in being offended, because offended sometimes means that you've had something that's crossed your mind that's made you have to have an emotional moment. And in that emotional moment, you can choose where you go with it. It's a power. It's like an energy. And it can be exploited as a way of anger. It can be brought out as creativity. You can take your anger. I often, somebody asks me, they see that I do a lot of positive posting, and they said, well, you never get angry, do you? And I said, no, wait, you don't understand. The reason I do what I do is because of anger. You see, I'm angry with hate and injustice and inequity and dispassionate people. And I list went on. I could list all the things I'm angry with. Not that I hate any of it, because I think all of it's necessary. I've come to grips with the fact that in the life experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly are all necessary to have this experience. But I think that where we choose to put our mind in it, where we choose to put our heart, and how we choose to react with the energy that comes forward in anger, I have found greater power in holding back anger and using it to try and bring peace through understanding. I've been able to find peace with people who otherwise might offend me, might piss me off. You know, sometimes they do. When a person pisses me off, my first thing is just like everybody else, oh, I'm going to write a horrible thing to them, and I type it up. And you know how many times I type stuff up and then, you know, instead of sending it,
right,
I erase it because now I'm going to give them the real answer. I just had my emotional thing.
I think all emotions are there for a reason. Whether they seem like negative at the time, they're not necessarily negative. I mean, anger, they say that psychologically anger is better for you than despair. If you despair, it means you've given up hope. Whereas if you're angry, it means that it can be an energy that can be sort of
well, apathy is a friend to no one.
Energy that can be used positively or you know, channeled positively.
Yeah.
If you you use it in.
I do. That's exactly. But that's what I tried to tell these people is they have to understand that anger is part of what brings me to maintain and do what I do on the net, and I've done it for years. Not with popularity, because certainly I'm not like one of the top YouTubers and top this or top that. I'm amazed now. I got 5,000 friends because I just like that came out of nowhere. I had 2,000 of them. I think maybe a year ago. And I was sufficient with that, and it wasn't like all of a sudden. And there was a sudden like bum 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 bum. Anyway,
but you use that anger as the impetus to try and put out ideas to change the injustice in the world, and
I transpose that anger into a great love, into a healing, an empathetic healing power that tries to understand everyone else's anger. You see, because everybody's walking wounded, everybody's angry, everybody's hurt. 90% of the women I've talked to who've opened up to me about their lives mentioned something about having childhood abuse. Almost 90% of the ones that come forward and talk to me. I could almost predict it. I could almost play like psychic and tell a woman, yes, you were abused as a child. And they would go, whoa, because frankly, it's true. So many, and there's a lot of men who are now coming out that were abused as children, had abuse in their lives and things like that. And these are things that I have a great compassion. I want to heal those things, but the way to heal them isn't to harm the victims, because many of the people coming out who are now victimizing were victims themselves who need healing. And the healing comes from understanding and empathy and listening and seeking to be a healer, wanting to take, I mean, it's an intent energy, if you will. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's metaphysical, maybe it's just psychological, but whatever it is, when you have the intent to heal, that's love to me. When you will self-sacrifice some of your time to talk to somebody to help them out. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I know of at least 2 cases where my personal being on the internet with somebody and talking with them help 2 people I know of for sure to not commit suicide. Okay. And even when I was feeling down, even when I've had times where I've thought of those things.
So your input has been very positive to those people. That's a good thing, James.
That's what I love, and that's what I want to encourage other people to do. We can either tear each other apart or we can build each other up. And I'd rather spend my time building people up, helping, healing, bringing that which we think of as love, kind of as a narrative, as a concept, as an archetype being. I've always, my image is a fiery love. That's what I want. I want that in the world. I want to be that.
We can change a lot with understanding, and to get that understanding, we need to keep talking and listening. Exactly. And listening importantly, because we're given 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should use them in that order, idea, and that way we can get to understanding. As long as we can keep the channels of communication open, that's the thing. Absolutely. People nowadays, they don't want to talk. I find a lot of people nowadays, they'd rather, instead of having a good conversation like you and me are having or whatever, they'd rather just stare into their cell phone, which to me is called a cell phone for a reason, because it's a prison for your bloody mind.
We've all watched people text the person standing next to them. Come on, we all know it.
Well, I don't know if they go that far. I wouldn't be surprised.
I've seen it happen, and people just sitting there and they'll be talking back. It's like there's 2 conversations going on. There's the one you're having, and then there's this one that's secret. It's kind of like how people used to whisper behind each other's backs. They're carrying it on. I watched it happen.
That's crazy. Yeah, they can chat to each other for free, and just that's the thing. I think there's a stigma in society now. People, if you go up to people and say hi, people were very neighborly in the past, and you could go up to anybody and chat to them, and things were just, very laid back and very friendly and cordial with it. Nowadays, you try and strike up, especially if you live in a big city. I find if you live in a big city like I do, you try and strike up a conversation with somebody about anything, whatever it is. They look at you like you got two bleeding heads.
Well, you shouldn't really, as you're walking down the street anymore, apparently look at another person, because if you do, they look at you like, "Why are you looking at me?"
Yeah.
It used to be, you'd walk down the street and you'd go, you didn't even know the person. You go, "Hi, how are you today? Oh, have a nice day." Sometimes you'd meet new people that way. Now it's like, as you walk past the other person, it's like you try to get as far away from each other, and you don't look at them. You kind of like just stare forward or down or whatever, and you sort of divert your eyes as you get near them. It's weird. I've noticed this. I do it. This is the crazy part. I find myself doing it. I don't want to. I want to walk up and hug them, but you know what? That would be like, oh my God! Could you imagine? I would be. Police would be there. It'd be assault. I'd be on the ground. It'd be.
I think society has changed, and I think a lot of it is due to opening up of the internet and things. Well, like for example, I mean, nowadays there's this huge stigma about paedophilia and all the rest of it, and a lot of it is for genuine reasons. But I mean, in the old days when I was a kid, you'd go out and chat to a kid if you were an adult, if you wanted to say hi, where's your mummy, blah, blah, or you wanted to find their parents for them so you could return the child to if their kid's lost or something. Nowadays, you couldn't even go up to a kid in the supermarket and say anything.
That's so sick to me, because kids need hugs, kids need touch. And we're told now, I mean, our youth facilities where we store our children during the day now have laws that tell them they can't even hug these children and or touch them or basically do the most important thing we do with our kids. And they've even made parents feel guilty for, like, my mom, when I was a little kid, used to sit there and pat my butt to sleep, rock me on the rocking chair. There was I don't remember her ever sexually. I wasn't sexually molested as a kid. I don't remember anybody in my life harming me sexually. Okay.
The thing, isn't it? I mean, it's not a crime just to like hold a child's hand and return them to customer services so that they can find their parents if they're lost or something. That's ridiculous.
There shouldn't be any problem with me if some child's lost and he's crying. If I want to hug that child for a moment without somebody going, "Oh, look, they want to like molest a kid," No.
A video of it on YouTube, James. There's this child in the middle and it's an experiment. They put a child, let's say a child, it's probably about 8 or 9 years old. And they just left him on the side to see if anybody would come up and approach him and talk to him. And everybody
left him alone.
They all just walked past and ignored
avoided, didn't notice, didn't care. Yeah, no, that's predictable. I could have told you that was going to be the outcome of that little experiment, because it's so sad that we have lost our connection. That is what we need. It is a dividing and conquering of us that is truly the problem, and we've been very successful at it, because even amongst the groups who would be working together to make the world change, if we don't find a unity amongst each other, only found, by the way, in that magic secret little word that I keep putting around, everybody has some different ideas about, but which we all kind of unite on, is love. If we don't put that somewhere in the middle of all this, there's no resolve that will ever work. We'll never get it politically, economically, spiritually, anything without that love. And you can't trust a dogma or a doctrine to feed you that love. You should not want that love out of a fear of anything. It's not. You should want that
community spirit again. We need to revive the community spirit.
It's in love, dude.
When we're out and about,
passion, empathy,
talk to people, just go up to people, strike up conversations, whatever it is, even if
but respect them too, because people right now have difficult space bubbles.
Even if it's just to start up a conversation by paying them a compliment or something and making them feel good about themselves, that's something that people don't do anymore. They don't go up to people and sort of say, "Oh, I love what you're wearing," or whatever, like they used to in the past. Connect with people, connect with the world, and get people talking again. And this is what we want: community spirit. Instead, if you see somebody homeless on the street, instead of just walking past and ignore them, ask them if they're all right. Even if you've got nothing to give them, just ask them if they're all right. or if they're.
Well, I think another thing that's really good to do, and I do this when I can, and that is that I look for people who I think have a need. I walk up to them and I give them $1 or $2 and I say, I just felt you needed this right now because I care. And you walk away, and sometimes as you start to walk away, these people will grab you and hug you, or they'll start to talk to you. Whatever. It's a ticket into their heart. It cost me a couple of bucks, and that's how I can find that I can unite with people. Because see, I am a hermit. But I do want to get with and meet people, but it's on kind of my own terms. Because I really, frankly, guys, I'm going to be honest. I distrust 99% of the human population right now, not because they're evil, but because they're misled. They're misled by their own hearts. They're misled by their own idealisms. They're misled by their own dogmas. They're misled by their own problems. They're misled by their own egos. I'm not perfect either. I'm not going to inflict myself upon this any more than I want them to inflict upon me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be there. I'm going to share positive energy. I'm going to try to be the most uplifting and most compassionate, most caring, most friendly, nicest person I can out of the anger in my heart that most of you aren't. And I'm not talking about most of you are listening to this because I think you guys get this. I think people here get it. But I think the most important thing we can do is find the true compassion that lives in each one of us. Find it and live it daily, even if nobody else does, because if enough of us did that, it'd all start working, I think. It just takes a few to get the fire going. It only takes a spark. Come on, everybody, hold hands everywhere around the world right now. It all. Okay.
Well, we need a big international group hug, I think.
There's my prediction for the future. You're all going to fuck each other, but love will still win.
Well, that can't be a bad thing, can it?
No, I think that ultimately everybody will win when love wins anyway.
My prediction, I suppose, well, apart from what I said earlier on about the Brexit and...
Okay, before I go, I'm going to give one last prediction. I will give one last final prediction, and then I got to go.
Go on then, James.
No, here's my last final prediction. Many of you who voted for Trump and thought he was going to be the greatest president ever in the history of time and space are within the next 6 to 12 months going to feel completely different. There's my prediction. Love y'all. I got to head out. And I wish I could make my prediction that there'll be more love in the world, but that's up to each one of you guys. I mean, because it's all up to an individual, which is you. I'm a part of you. I want to be a part of you. But right now I'm hanging up on the hill holding the light of love. Anybody that wants it can come get it. I'm on Facebook. I'm around. Otherwise, you're on your own.
All right, James, thanks for coming in and joining in on all your predictions. And you're probably right about the last one you just said. But do we expect anybody from the power that be to change anything? No, they never have done. They never will do. So, cheers. Thanks very much, James, and I'll see you again soon.
All right. God bless. Bye.
Cheers, Stav. Cheers, James.